This is the Coach Maz Show, presented by Griffins baseball alum State Farm agent Alex Hetrick in Murraysville. Like a good neighbor, State Farm agent Alex Hetrick is there. Here's Dan Flickinger and the head coach of the Seton Hill Griffins, Mark Marizaldi.
The defending PSAC champions are putting their championship on the line here tonight as the Griffins start the PSAC tournament against the Shippensburg Red Raiders. Welcome to the playoff edition of the Coach Maz Show, brought to you by, as always, our friend Alex Hetrick, State Farm agent in Delmont. Like a good neighbor, State Farm agent Alex Hetrick is there. And Maz, a lot of things to be proud of this year. Congratulations on getting first place. Congratulations on being named Coach of the Year. Obviously, a lot of individual accomplishments that we need to talk a little bit about as well. But you're here. You're playing in a PSAC tournament. You got the number one seed in the West. So I know you guys are excited to get ready to go here.
Yeah, we are. A couple of weeks ago, we weren't even sure if we were going to be in contention for a conference tournament or regional. And certainly we had a long way to go to secure first place in the West Division. Our backs were we dug ourselves a hole, but we won 15 of our last 16 games to get to this point. I'm incredibly proud of our guys. They showed a lot of grit and fight and kind of just a whatever it takes mentality to take care of what we really needed to do. We only won the division by one game, so there wasn't really much margin for error. And it's kind of weird, right? Like on senior day, we lose our first game. We know we only need to win one game against Gannon to secure the division title. We lose the first game, and thankfully we came back and we won the second game. But in hindsight, I look back and I'm like, man, it would have been nice to win that first game against Gannon, but I don't know if that's what you want to do, roll into the postseason on a 16-game win streak, right? So who knows? Maybe that loss was good to get it out of the way, and we're on a one-game win streak now, and hopefully it continues.
Yeah, allowed you to refocus a little bit. Talk about the crazy ending in the PSAC, not only in the West, but in the East. You have Millersville dropping to third after really kind of them and East Stroudsburg leading the way the entire year. Westchester moves up to number 2, and then everything that happened and broke down in the West with you guys taking first place, IUP then taking 3 of 4 from Mercyhurst to finish second. I mean, it was a pretty wild ending that maybe you don't see every year.
Yeah, it was. You summarized that a heck of a lot better than I could. I kind of committed myself to not scoreboard watching for the last week or two of the season. I followed a little bit along with the East just because it was such a competitive race with those top 3 teams. And they ended up all playing each other towards the end of the season. But I just tried to put our nose down and try to win every single series that we had left. I did know going into the very last day of our season how many games we needed to win. We needed to win 1 out of 2. But up until that point, I tried not to pay attention to the standings. And even now, it's great being a number 1 seed in this tournament, right? But with single elimination and the fact that the PSAC is so good and everybody has an ace, I mean, I don't know if there really is an advantage of being the number 1 seed, especially going against a good Shippensburg team.
Yeah, we saw IUP knock off Millersville earlier today. You just never know. Let's go back and talk about that last doubleheader of the season against Gannon. Game 1 had to be incredibly frustrating. Left a lot of guys on base, Maz, 13 of them to be exact. Couldn't hold a 6-4 lead in the last inning, but you went from pretty frustrating to a good bounce back in game 2. So I'm sure you had to be proud of your team's response in the second game.
Yeah, huge thanks to Andino Vecchiola. That kid just seems to come up big and must win games, right? When there's a lot on the line. Pitching a shutout there in that last game, combining with Ian Korn. A little bit of a frustrating loss for the reasons you mentioned, that we were ahead. We had a ton of opportunities to score. So you can look at that as like, man, that was a tough game. Or you could look at it and be like, well, that was one time over the last 16 games that we weren't able to find a way to win. And we had been doing that quite a lot during that 3-week stretch there, just finding ways to win games, and just weren't able to do that against Gannon. But it was great to see how our guys responded with a shutout in game 2.
Christian Zilli's been great this year. Obviously, kind of gave up the lead in that loss to Gannon, but mentally, I'm sure you're not very worried about him. He's a pretty tough kid mentally, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about competitors, you followed that kid's career. He's made some big shots on the hoop court. He's made some big time plays on the football field. And he's found a way to assume a big role with us. So we hope to have a very long postseason. And if we do, Zilly's going to play a big part in it.
Jack Oberdorf, Max Mandler, and Aiden Layton all named first team all PSAC West selections. Brandon Bergert was named to the second team. And we mentioned Coach Maz, congratulations again, Coach of the Year. And Owen Mandler, second straight time, Maz, you've had the Freshman of the Year in the PSAC West. That's pretty cool. Can you kind of talk about those guys? I know it's about the team, but just their contributions in their seasons.
Well, starting at the top with Jack Oberdorf, like he's a first team all conference guy. And of course, nobody's surprised. It's almost like, well, yeah, that's what Jober does.
Third
But
straight year, I believe he was named all conference. So
yeah, that what a tremendous career. What a great exclamation point on a really dominant performance for him throughout his years in the PSAC. I'm so happy that he got recognized. I would guess he was a pretty serious candidate for Player of the Year in the West too. Just the special combination of defense and the power bat that he has. The one guy I'm so excited, Aiden Layton finally got rewarded. He's been kind of in the shadows a little bit, right? McCullough and Bergert have kind of garnered all the recognition within the conference. And hey, there's Aiden just being steady as heck. And when you look at the career numbers, um, his career numbers may trump Bergert and McCullough. But I know he got all conference for this year, but it's almost as if like he earned that throughout his whole career, which was awesome to see. And Max too, I'm glad to see other coaches in the league recognizing the high level player that Max is and how consistent of a hitter and defender he is. And Berger too. I thought this was a year that had some pretty good starting pitching. Obviously, Jalad, the pitcher of the year at Slippery Rock, and Mercyhurst had some good arms in IUP. So Berger got bumped down to the second team, but I'm sure he's still considered one of the best in the league. And what a special season by Owen Mandler, right? Like you think like it's incredible for Jack Whalen to do what he did last year, leading the country in stolen bases, and then Owen Mandler steps in and puts up not on the base pass, but offensively, even bigger numbers. And another thing I think that earned Owen a lot of recognition is his versatility, right? He DH'd, he played second base, he's now playing left field. Just a huge statement, for Tyler Sullivan and Vinny Rauso, two guys that work with our hitters every day that in back-to-back years were able to develop the freshman of the year. So great recognition, all very deserved for all those guys.
Looking back at last year's PSAC tournament, you guys, we talked about this a couple of times, were nearly perfect in every aspect of the game for 4 games. It was an incredible run, but this is a different team. This is a different year. So what is the key to your success for this year's version of the Griffins, or what do you call them? Team 21? Is that what we're going with?
Yeah.
First season? Yeah.
I think we got rid of the COVID year, but this is the 21st team in Seton Hill history. So, and I thought it was important to refer to them as Team 21, so that we don't walk into this tournament and even the whole season trying to outdo or live up to last year's expectations. I want these guys to be known and to look at themselves as they're Team 21. They're not Team 20, even though there's a lot of same guys. Like they get to write their own story this year. And I've heard in the last couple of days the defending champs, and we're trying to get away from that, to be honest with you. This year's team is different. Last year we rolled in here, and like you mentioned, we were dominant in every facet. We haven't been dominant in every facet of the game this year. We're better in some areas, not as good in others. I think what's gotten us to this point is really consistent pitching and outstanding defense. I think what's allowed us to win games has been timely hitting. I wouldn't say our offense has been consistent throughout the season, but when we win, it's because we're taking advantage of opportunities, which we didn't, like you mentioned, against Gannon. So for this tournament, we're going to try to be really good at what we're normally good at, and that's pitch it, defend it. And we're just going to try to put our noses down and battle every single pitch at the plate and try to make things happen on offense.
Your opponent, Shippensburg, again, you played them to start the PSAC tournament last year, the regional that you hosted last year as well. and then you open with them this year in the PSAC tournament. You also played them in the regular season, Maz. So kind of give us a little bit of a scouting report, and what can you glean, if anything, from all of those previous meetings somewhat recently?
Honestly, can't glean a whole lot. I mean, playing them earlier in the year, we got a glimpse of maybe their athleticism and what they look like on the field. But we haven't seen any of their top arms. They have a different look at the top of their rotation this year than they did last year. Obviously, we didn't see those guys early in the season, midweek. So they do have a lot of hitters back. They have some pretty good hitters in the middle of the lineup, some left-handers that do a little bit of damage. But what we don't know is what we're going to see on the mound here from some guys that we haven't seen before. But it seems every year we run into Shippensburg in the postseason. Whether it be a regional or a conference tournament. So we're familiar with each other, I think. But it's going to be a different season. I believe they swept Westchester this year, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Westchester, #1 team in the region. They didn't lose too many games, and Chip was able to sweep them. They swept a doubleheader from Millersville, so they've beaten some really good teams, and I think we'll have our hands full today.
You start at 8:00 tonight, which obviously, you haven't done that all year. I mean, even in Florida, maybe you had an evening game there, but what changes in terms of the routine? Is that something that you kind of make sure everybody is aware of to be ready to play at 8:00?
We kind of talked about it all week. It's a tough week for our guys because this is actually finals week for us. And our guys had to move all of their finals up to Monday and Tuesday. And I think even a couple of guys had to cram in some finals this morning too. So we encouraged them to sleep in. We didn't leave campus till noon, stopped and had a big lunch, letting them take a little bit of a nap here at the hotel. We'll do a little bit of an activation lift before we hop on the bus at 5:30. So we want to kind of follow the same routine, just push it back probably about 5-6 hours from normal.
And finally, Maz, I want to ask you about the Day of Giving that you have every year. Seton Hill baseball acquitted itself very well again. I think you came in second in terms of most dollars raised and most donors, which is great. Give a little challenge, I guess, to the guys for next year. But talk a little bit about that and what that kind of means to the program.
Well, we're inching up every year. We ended up bringing in about $13,600, which is a couple thousand more than last year. We had 79 total donors this year, and we have about 155 alumni. So we just eclipsed that 50% mark. I got a shout out to our class of 2008. They had over 70% participation from all the graduates in that class. So I'm on the hook for a little reward for the 2008 Old Griffs. But I've been communicating with those guys the last week or two. They're probably so sick and tired of getting text messages from me. I hammered them for weeks, but incredibly thankful and grateful for not only their donations on Day of Giving, but their continued support. I got my typical threatening messages today, like, you guys better kick some ass tonight. You better win the tournament. But Griff Nation is following us, no doubt, and they continue to do great work for our program behind the scenes and give back to, Seton Hill baseball, which I hope has created so many great memories for them, and now they're allowing us to do the same for our current players.
I'm sure we'll have a great following here at Slippery Rock, if not here on WSN. Maz, again, congratulations on the regular season, but it starts anew today. So good luck and go get the first win. All right.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dan. It's fantastic having you guys here, and on behalf of all of our fans and alumni and followers, they're really excited to see the WSN broadcast tonight. So thank you.
Yeah, we love being here. That is Coach Mark Marizaldi of the Seton Hill Griffins. We will have first pitch for you coming up. The Coach Maz Show, presented by State Farm agent Alex Hetrick in Delmont. The PSAC tournament for the Griffs begins next.